Hey everybody, it's Evan. Welcome to the ProfNoctis Show. We're so excited that you joined us for another episode. This week we have the incredible, the amazing BltzZ with two Z's. What did we get into, Wade?
We talk about combat, we talk about gameplay because he is the gameplay guru. So we really lean into his prowess in that. We also talk a lot about theories and our biggest hopes for part 3 of the FF7 remake trilogy. So you don't want to miss a single bit of it. And with that, let's get started.
Let's mosey. It's staying in.
Hey everybody, today Evan and I are joined with gameplay expert, battle fighting game guru, and then Final Fantasy VII loresmith, BltzZ. BltzZ, welcome in.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor to be here. I think we've worked together so many times on different podcasts and other people's channels. It's kind of like a joy right now to finally be able to do something directly on your channel. So I'm excited.
Dude, it's an honor. So BltzZ, ever since we met first time out in LA for the 16 event, you've just become one of my favorite people. Not just to like consume your content and stuff, which has helped me endlessly, by the way, in hard mode of rebirth. You've kept me alive. But especially just like as a person, and I want everybody to know, BltzZ is like the real deal. He is so cool and just awesome to hang out with and stuff, just super personable. So what you see on camera, a lot of times it's not the same off camera, but with BltzZ, 100% genuine article. So I just want to give you real props for that. Way to go on that.
I appreciate that, man. I'm not going to lie. When we hung out in Boston for PAX East and you told me that your flight got canceled, you had to stay back again, I was so happy. I was like, yeah.
Dude, it was so great. I was
like, screw that flight. You got to stay and hang out with us more.
And I'm so glad I did. We ended up having a great time that night. So
magical, man.
So good. But today we are here to talk about Final Fantasy, talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth especially. But as everybody can probably already see, there does seem to be a theme going on. And so we hopped on pre-call sort of stuff, and BltzZ is sporting a jersey. BltzZ, you want to share a little bit about what's up?
So growing up, my family is really big into football, and we are unfortunately Jets fans. Man, my cousin just got the entire family hooked on the Jets. It was like the Vinny Testaverde days going into I was a big Wayne Corbett fan. I had a Corbett jersey growing up and I loved the dude. But Chad Pennington was awesome too. And then like in high school, they had some really good years. So I've always been a huge Jets fan, but then I got really into fantasy football and just like lost myself within the sport, and it's something that I really enjoy. And actually, bit of trivia: a lot of people think that my name is BltzZ because of Final Fantasy X, like Blitzball. And I'm like, no, it's actually because of NFL Blitz 1999 and 2000.
That's what I was thinking.
Favorite play.
I can't remember the place.
It's gotta be Sub-Zero.
I used to mash the controllers. I used to mash the controllers before so you can get all the random cheats.
That was the best.
the midway codes, man.
Dude, that was the best. Well, actually,
so fun.
You unlocked a core memory for me when you said Sub-Zero. I was like, yes, that's the play.
Oh yeah,
I remember.
It's Sub-Zero. It's always Sub-Zero. Well, I was going to wait to reveal this, but I think this is probably the appropriate time. BltzZ, in your honor, I was gifted something by a dear friend, and I decided to run the entire recording with this Injustice Gods Among Us full controller that my buddy gave to me in honor of your fighting game prowess and career, and it would work great with NFL Blitz as well. So if the recording gets messed up, everybody, if you see me over here mashing buttons, that's because I'm trying to run OBS using a third-party controller here. So,
bro, that put the biggest smile on my face. Oh my God. So like, I grew up with like, Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom. I was totally ass at them, but like I didn't really understand it, pick up fighting games until like the Mortal Kombat 9 era and Injustice, which came out like 2 years after that. So like Injustice was one of the games that kind of like pushed me towards wanting to make content on it. If you go back like early on, I actually have some like Injustice 2 videos.
There
I found a guy in Miami that was selling it like 2 weeks early, and I was like, bro, I got went over to
Miami thing I've heard today.
Went over, got the game early, made a bunch of videos. Man, that's funny that you have specifically that. I love Injustice.
Well, big shout out to my friend who gave it to you. You know who you are, and so we just super appreciate you. And I know that you wouldn't want me to say who you are, so you know who you are. Big thanks. I still have it. I really enjoy it, and it's awesome. Gotta bust it out. I do have
friend.
That is.
Yeah.
I do have some questions about that kind of early career with fighting games. I grew up playing like Soul Calibur and like Tekken Tag with like my friends on I guess we played it on the Dreamcast or something like that. Like I just remember having like a weird controller. Maybe it was a PlayStation, but we would rent that one from Blockbuster, and like I don't remember the character's name, but he just did a bunch of backflips and like kind of like he like kicked him over and over across the screen. And we were like, that's it. See, there we go.
Yeah.
So have you always enjoyed fighting games? What kind of was that first one that sparked your interest, and why was it Killer Instinct for the N64?
My cousin had so I have an older cousin named Kevin, and he's the Jets fan. He's the one that put us onto this unfortunate depressing streak. But also he did some really great things by owning a lot of great consoles. So like he had an SNES, he had the Sega Genesis, he had an N64, PlayStation and stuff. So like I grew up with him, and we would always play games together. So we obviously started off with like Mario and stuff on SNES, but when he got like Mortal Kombat and he started to get like Street Fighter, I'm like, oh, these are games that we could actually like fight each other in. This is cool. I was never good at them, but I'd always play them, play with him and stuff. So it was a really cool. It's just one of those cool things that just continuously grew with me as I got older. And sure enough, like being an obsessed person with YouTube and seeing that people could make videos on YouTube and make a living off of that, I started off like wanting to do Call of Duty videos, and that didn't work out because COD is like super oversaturated. So then it is super crowded. So I actually gravitated towards fighting games more. And sure enough, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out on my birthday, February 11th, 2011. I think it came out like on that birthday. It was my 18th birthday. And me and my friends, like, we weren't good. So we looked up some videos on how we could like get better at the game and stuff and learn combos. I really liked Wesker. I thought he was really fun. And I looked up some videos, and the first video I see was from this dude named Maximilian. And he had like these crazy Wesker combos, and like I was trying to replicate them and get good. And I could master a couple of them, and it just was pretty awesome. And then fast forward a couple of years later, Injustice and like Mortal Kombat 9 came out. So I started to watch more of Max's videos and got really, really into like how he broke down fighting games for people, making it very inclusive and fun. Like you don't have to be the best player. And sure enough, just enjoying it in a very casual sense. And I was like, yo, this is actually really cool. I want to do stuff like this. So early on, like I started uploading like Smash videos, Mortal Kombat videos, so many different fighting games we used to experiment with. And I started to find like success with them because I like the guide aspect. We're teaching people how to get better at something, and seeing the comments, like people react. I'm like, yo, thank you so much. I had such a hard time learning how to do that. And then just watching your videos, you taught me it. So it was a addicting thing for a while. But, for the first, I think I started uploading like fighting game content in like 2016-ish. But then I started taking it seriously in 2017. Okay. And from 2017 to 2020, we grew to like 6,000 subs. And then the pandemic happened. And Mortal Kombat 11 at the time was not doing good on YouTube, at least for me. I was getting demonetized all the time for the violence and the blood and stuff. So going from that, I decided to just dive into like Final Fantasy VII Remake. And sure enough, that took off. And the same cousin Kevin, he introduced me to FF7. He introduced me to all these great games, and that was a memory that we shared together growing up, was playing FF7 together. And like he would play it and read it out loud to me, and I would just like sit next to him. And I remember one of my earliest memories was he was like, yo, I'm bringing over this game, Final Fantasy. We're gonna beat it. He used to spend the weekends by me, and we got through disc 1, and it was such a freaking cliffhanger that he had to go home and go back to school. And I'm like, no. Like, I want to see what happens. So I tell my mom, and I'm like, Mom, when we get a chance, can we go get this game that Kevin has? It's called Final Fantasy. She's like, yeah, of course. And so the weekend comes around, and we go, because back then GameStop didn't exist. So we go to the flea market in South Florida, the swap shop, and we go to the dude in the back with the cowboy hat. If you know, you know. He had every single game. He had a black cage in front of the setup with a glass case covering all the games and kind of like an oval around him. And you just tell him what game you want. He points at it, and then he gives it to you around the side. You know, you pay him or whatever. So we told him we wanted Final Fantasy. He gave us the latest Final Fantasy at the time. This was 1998, I think it was, or 99. I get home, I boot it up. Like, this doesn't look familiar at all. What's happening here? Who are these characters? Why does this guy have a gun blade?
Oh, you got tricked.
You gave me Final Fantasy 8.
Yeah.
And sure, it was our fault because I was a dumb little kid. I couldn't read Roman numerals. I didn't know what 7 was. I just knew Final Fantasy. So
wow.
Did you play
Final Fantasy 8? Yeah, I played it. And then the same cousin Kevin came over. He had beaten 7, so he wanted 8, and we traded. And then I borrowed like 7 from him, and that's how I ended up playing it.
Okay.
Big shout out.
Did you like
Kevin.
8?
Sorry?
Did you like 8?
I liked 8. I liked it a lot, actually. I remember I got to disc 3. I never ever started like disc 4. Even when they dropped the PS1 classics on PlayStation 3 where you could play them digitally, bought it, played it again, left off at the same spot. I'm like Professor Calamitous. I don't know if you watch Jimmy Neutron. He's like the villain that can't finish anything he starts.
Oh, that could be you. Nice.
Yeah, that's me. And that's me right now. That's me right now with the Rebirth guides.
There you go. I want to get to the Rebirth of Gods in a minute, but I'll say a lot of people drop off in Final Fantasy VIII, and they miss this one part at the end. I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but it goes off the rails in a way that fans of Final Fantasy VII Remake, especially in Chapter 18, can really kind of like see where the roots of that were, I think. Because it's like, wow, okay, that's out of nowhere. It's good stuff.
For any viewers out there, there's a very interesting website. I think it's still active right now. It's called squallisdead.com. And it goes into this crazy theory about Squall not being alive for most of the game. And it's kind of mind-blowing, but it's been debunked, obviously.
Yeah, it's interesting, compelling, but even the best research can be debunked if a creator's like, no, that's not the way it is. Fortunately, with Final Fantasy VII, we don't have creators that say, no, that's not the way it is. They say, maybe, check us out in 3 more years.
You never know. We've watched some of your videos. Sometimes.
Well, I have questions about fighting games and kind of fighting mechanics in general as we kind of get into a little bit of the Final Fantasy VII talk. No gun blades that we know of yet, but... Okay. When it comes to like a traditional fighting game, you kind of have your Mortal Kombat, your Street Fighter, then you have your more like Super Smash Brothers multiverses, which I know you make a lot of content for. Is there a term to differentiate the two of those before I ask my actual question? I'm trying to get educated here. Or were those both just fighting games and one's like a platform fighter or something like that? I don't know what the term would be.
That's what it is. Platform fighters to describe like Smash and multiverses, just because they have more of a free flowing combo structure where like you can manipulate your jumps and your movement to kind of extend and do different combos that you normally wouldn't be able to. Whereas in like a traditional fighting game, you're kind of restricted to the frames that each move lasts, and there's cancel windows and stuff, but it's 2 entirely different systems. And I appreciate both of them because I love the idea of Smash Bros, for example, being a very expressive game where no 2 players will play exactly the same. Even if they play the same character, you can watch them do a mirror match against each other and they will do very different things and try to go for different things. Let me take that off. My notification thing is on.
You're good. He just got a sub for those of you who are watching, but it'll be cropped out anyways, so you don't have to worry about that because I think the horizontal window that will do the editing should be good. But hey, thanks for the sub. Shout out to whomever that was. So when it comes to traditional fighting games and then platform fighters, and then like an RPG like Final Fantasy VII, where they kind of reworked a lot of the fighting system. I wonder if you could talk about some of the differences, maybe where they drew some of their inspirations and what you think is kind of unique about this era in action RPGs and some of the interactivity between the fighting systems that I think has really changed and expanded over time. I'd love your thoughts.
That's a very good question, actually. So One of the main things that I tried to do when Remake came out was focus on making a Let's Play series. And for those that have probably gone on the channel and seen it, you'll see I only made it to like, I only kept up with it to like chapter 9. Because by the time I got to chapter 4, I found something that not a lot of people were talking about, and the fact that like they developed the combat system, because I think in around chapter 4 is when you get a full 3-team party finally, when you get to finally play as Tifa, Barret, and Cloud together. And it's very much like a versus fighting game, which is like a tag team fighter like Marvel versus Capcom. And you had so many different like elements that you could apply to that nobody was really utilizing. So that was the main thing that I wanted to focus on, was showing people how to play as Cloud, how to play as Barret, how to play as Tifa, and then blend them all together. And I thought that was such a really great idea that I did not expect that when I uploaded it, that the next morning I'd wake up and it actually went viral overnight. It was my first actual like video success that I wasn't expecting. Like I just did it for the passion of doing it. I wasn't doing it thinking that, oh, this will get a lot of views. I wasn't even in that mindset. I just saw that some people were playing it and they weren't using Tifa properly. And I just thought it was really cool because she has a lot of combo cancels that are very reminiscent of like fighting games. She can go, she can buff herself, and then she can use new moves while in like different chi levels, which is her buff. And if you do use them, it doesn't necessarily nerf her in any way. She can still do other combo cancels. And we found out stuff later on where like the parry slide materia, that actually can clip animations, which is so funny because then you can actually like throw out moves even faster than the game anticipated you doing. So much to the point that they kind of nerfed it in Rebirth. But it's okay. I know they'd be watching my videos. So just seeing how many of these elements are very similar between a fighting game into like what they're doing and what they're trying to do in FF7 Remake, it's beautiful, I think. And it's quite telling that a dev from Capcom kind of like made this system, right? Teddy Endo was the battle director for Monster Hunter World. He worked with Capcom. And so like him going over to like work with Remake and developing this system, I can totally see like where a lot of the inspiration came from. And I just think it's really cool. I think it's the best possible way that Final Fantasy should do their combat systems moving forward. Personally, that's just how I feel.
What you just said right there regarding Tifa, and especially the parry slide sort of thing that she uniquely does, your video on that opened up my eyes to a whole new world of fighting and combat in Final Fantasy VII Remake. In fact, that was the technique that I ended up needing to defeat Vice. So I watched your video and I was like, I've never done that before in my life. Then next time I fought Vice, it was like I think I beat him in like 4 minutes.
Nice. It clicked. Everything clicked.
Everything clicked, and that was the missing key. Before that, I was dying like 8, 9, 10 minutes in, and then it was like, oh my gosh, that's the thing. So, somehow that translation of fighting game mechanics into Remake, I don't really understand all the logistics of it, but you were able to see something that nobody else was seeing, and I think that's incredible. So really, really cool.
Thank you, man. And it's special because it's a game that Final Fantasy VII means a lot to me. Like growing up, I have so many great memories with my family and like playing that game and just going through it. And it was the first like narrative game that I played that really taught me that video games can tell a story, be very impactful in that way. And playing that and then going to like Metal Gear Solid, for example, like it was such a great impactful moment in my life. It's like playing these games and witnessing these things and just seeing this art unfold in this outside of it just being like fighting games and Sonic and Mario and like platform games, you know what I mean? Like it's just it was really cool to see video games be able to tell this type of story. And fast forward now to have a career out of it, it's so cool. Mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. Every day I wake up and I'm just like, yo, this is actually real. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. So in 2020, things really started to escalate for you. You were you full-time content creation at that point, pre-pandemic?
I wanted to so bad, but I actually ended up losing my career, my job, because of the pandemic. The company I worked for closed down, unfortunately, and a lot of people suffered from that. A lot of people were dealing with that, and I kind of like dove 100% into content creation to kind of like escape, because I was depressed. So I was just like, man, I can't upload Mortal Kombat videos. I'm getting demonetized left and right. I don't know how to retain a community. I'm afraid to live stream. Like, and then like I just decided to upload like the remake videos, and they just kept doing well, like the guides and just showing people like how to play characters a certain way, what certain materials do, how the stagger system works, and just seeing all this reception from people in the comments that are just like loving this stuff. It kind of like made me realize, okay, this is possible. I can do this. And sure enough, I saw the other day you shared that you hit your 10,000 milestone, which congrats to you, by the way. That's
Thank you.
You're growing at a very rapid rate, guys, and that's a phenomenal thing. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but during that time when my channel was making these guides and they were doing really well, I got an email from YouTube saying that you're going to be featured on the Creator on the Rise on the trending tab. Wow. And I was like, I thought it was spam. I was like, whatever. So I woke up the next day and my channel went from like getting like 80,000 views per day. I woke up and it was at like 700,000. And like the bar was crazy. Like, you know, the bar is like usually kind of like it goes up like this high. It was huge. It was way up here. I was like, oh my God, like what is this going to do to my averages?
Yeah, for real.
So what they did was they put me on the trending page for a week. For the first 24 hours, I was on like the official like trending tab. And then I was on the gaming trending tab for like an entire week, and it helped out the channel tremendously. We went from like 10K to like 20K in a week. I was mind blown by that. I don't know if they still do that, but it's a really, really dope thing. And, you know, it just goes to show like when you really put your focus on something that you're passionate about and don't even think like, oh, I'm just doing this to get this, or I'm just trying to accomplish this or whatever. Like if you actually have passion and you like what it is that you're talking about, like people can pick up on that. The viewers can pick up on that. The YouTube algorithm picks up on that, and it's intoxicating, and you end up getting rewarded for your efforts.
Yeah, well, that's something we talked about in Boston, actually. And I mean, we had so many conversations up there that probably were like nothing to you, but in the back of my mind, I was just writing down notes all the time, listening to your content creation journey, because it's not a super orthodox content creation journey, but I've learned talking to more creators, there isn't such thing as just a roadmap. Everybody's got their unique kind of, this is a moment I lucked out, this is something that happened. And you know, I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about, you know, when I had, you know, this many subscribers, 3,000, you know, I was still in this headspace of like, what am I doing? I'm getting like all of these strikes, all these claims on me and all this kind of stuff. Like, is it worth it to keep going? But the thing that you said to me in Boston was, if you've really got a passion for something, you keep pursuing it and putting it out there, that passion is contagious. And I remember specifically, you said to me, what you're doing to me on this channel, what you're doing is something that a lot of people can't do, because you come at it with this university mindset, this academic sort of thing. He said, there's an audience out there for that. In a way that there's one for gameplay and one for story and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, kind of, maybe, sure. And that has been really true to this whole channel and stuff. And I always think about what you said that day as like, okay, let me just stay true to my core values, and you know, we'll see what happens, but I'm loving what I make. So and that's what I get from you. You seem to genuinely love and have an interest for the things that you're making. And that, I think, is maybe the best advice that somebody can give to somebody that wants to be in content creation. We've got a lot of people that are aspiring content creators that listen. Some of my students even are picking up tips from this. So would you say that that's like the biggest piece of advice? What else might you say to somebody that is thinking about this?
It's true. Like you can chase trends all day and post videos like within whatever is, you know, up and coming or like popping off right now. But 9 times out of 10, you'll just be drowned in the algorithm. It's just oversaturated with that stuff. However, I've seen many times over, not just with myself, but like other creators too. And I talk to so many other creators about like content and like what it is that they want to do, what they want to like change up, what should they like try to do. And it's just always like, you know, whatever it is you feel passionate about has always been the tried and true like method go about this thing. And it's just like you will see success. You'll see success. The numbers will eventually come in, and have fun with it. Have fun with it. Interact with your community. All these things that you're doing is just stepping stones that eventually will let you boom. And it's like I learned it even myself with with multiverses. Because like Final Fantasy was one thing that was like the thing that I was doing for a while, but obviously in between games it can be quite long, as we know with Square Enix. It can be quite long. So I picked up some other things and found very great success with like multiverses. And it's just like whatever it is you're passionate about, don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't try, or even myself, don't let me tell you that you can't do this or you shouldn't try this. Like try everything at least once, and as long as you like it, people will see that, and the universe will reward you.
I have some questions as we kind of transition soon into our Final Fantasy VII specific talk. I think this will be a good transition piece because the story in Final Fantasy VII is a lot about supporting one another and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. You mentioned that you kind of experienced a down season in life where your job changed. The pandemic had happened, the things that you had relied on had shifted. And I imagine that somewhere you had to find some resilience and some grit to be able to take a risk and do some different things, but also to just kind of keep going. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you found that inside yourself, maybe what your support system looked like. And when folks are going through that and they see that in a story, what it was like for you to now being, on a different side of things, right? I don't know the whole story, but what does it look like for you to be resilient? And how did you find that grit within yourself? Kind of like the characters in Final Fantasy VII do for each other.
That's a great comparison as well. So I worked my previous job. I worked that job since, I don't know, maybe like 7 years. I put a lot of time into that company, and to see how quickly I was kind of like tossed aside, it broke my heart in a lot of ways. And I felt naturally, as anybody would, you'd feel depressed about that and bothered. But my girlfriend, Nadia, before I even lost the job, we both worked together, and we went out one night and we were having some drinks and we were talking, and she was like, what is it that you want to do? Like, what is it that you want to like pursue in life? Is this what you want? Do you want to continue working here? Which is fine. Or is there a passion thing that you're really interested in? So at the time, she wasn't really into like the gaming sphere and like seeing what YouTube was like as a career. So I told her, I was like, I kind of want to play games on YouTube. And she's like, oh, you want to like learn to make games, like go to school for it? I'm like, no. And I showed her like other channels, like of people just playing games and doing well with it. And she didn't like shoot down the idea at all. The next day she bought me a microphone because I kept making excuses. I was like,
let's go.
I got the capture card. I got the games. I don't know. I don't have the time. And like, I don't have a microphone. So like, and next Amazon Prime, I was a Blue Snowball microphone. And she was like, well, now you have everything. So like, go ahead and do it. And sure enough, like I started it off as a hobby, and I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that she told me this. Like, she was my Tifa. She pushed me into turning this into a regular hobby that I enjoyed, and eventually became my career when and I lost my actual job, and I was able to kind of like build off of that. And then even further, with her being like my support system and like helping me find that resilience, I was afraid like to stream. I was terrified of it because my videos, my voice wasn't like, that's not how I talk. Like, even if you listen to how I talk in like videos and stuff now, that's not how I'm talking right now. It's not how I am in a live format. It's like scripted, So I was very nervous about going live and that not translating well, and people like kind of being like, oh, what? He's not the same person. Yeah. But she convinced me to do it, and I did it, and I was blown away. The first stream that I ever did, I had like 300 people show up, and I was just like,
wow,
who are you people?
Wow.
It was crazy. So like consistently throughout my life, she has always, and it's funny, she's probably listening to me say that because my door is open, but like she's never steered me wrong in any direction. Anytime she's ever told me to do something or recommended I try out something, I've always been stubborn about it, or like my own self-doubt in my head, but she's always been right. It's funny. It's funny how it always works out that way.
That's amazing. Mr. Rogers was giving a speech and accepting an award, and I don't know what the award was or whatever. But it's one of my favorite stories because I don't know if you grew up watching Mr. Rogers or you know who he is. If you don't, Google Mr. Rogers, everybody, you need to get to know him. He had the show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and he's accepting this award in front of all of these bigwigs. And in his speech, he just said, there's a lot of people that helped me get to this point, and you have a lot of people in your life that have helped you get to the point that you're in. And so what I want us to do is I want us for the next minute or something like interval of time, I want us to think about and just be appreciative of those people that have had that role in our life. And he goes, I'll watch the time. And then he just looks at his watch and just stands there. And like, everyone by the end of this minute is like crying and like, so because they're, you're thinking about those people that helped you become the person that you are. And I just think that's really beautiful. And it can tell that you're really grateful for those folks in your life. And it's Nadia, right? You said?
Yeah.
Especially for Nadia. So shout out Nadia. But I'll let us get into some Final Fantasy talk now that you've kind of set the stage with who your Tifa is. That rules.
Yeah.
Wade, where do you want to go from here?
Well, I have one other question, about content creation and all this stuff. You said that when you were at 3,000 subs, these were the things that you were concerned about. Then you got to 10,000, moving on to 20, all that kind of stuff. What are the things that you find yourself continuing to improve on now that you never really would have dreamed of when you were at 3 or 10,000?
My biggest thing that I'm continuously trying to like strive to get better at is continuing to be versatile. Because there's a lot of times when you're in this world and you're making content, you see certain topics and certain things do extremely well. And you're just afraid to try something different because you don't think you'll get that same reception. And that's something that I'm constantly struggling with, as much as we've grown and as much as like different topics and different things that we've done throughout the channel. It's something that I'm constantly having to remind myself to do, to like, hey, I just did a multiverses video today, I need to put out a Final Fantasy VII video. I don't alienate your audience essentially, and just try to not necessarily put stuff out to like please people. It's a really good practice, I think, to help yourself stay versatile, right? And it can be kind of taxing on you mentally if you're just stuck doing like one thing, one particular subject, and if you're not jumping into different games, it can be very stressful. So I think it's very important to do that and force yourself to do it, even if you're worried that the reception might not be there. It still will, and never look at it as like, oh, this was a flop, the videos like views didn't do well. It's evergreen content. As long as you're making evergreen content, informational stuff that people are going to be looking up and whatnot, and titling your videos properly, it will continue to circulate and do extremely well. Like, I think we talked briefly on Twitter the other day. I was like, you should do like anime breakdowns too, because it's
you did mention that, and I'm looking into it, is all I can say.
He doesn't watch.
Because I go in blindly.
That's the best thing, though. That's the best thing. If you don't watch anime, more people will be tuned in because they've seen this stuff. They want to see what your perspective and what your takeaways on this is going to be. And you never know. You could transcend everything that you're doing right now. And years from now, later from now, you'll be at 1 million subs, like breaking down like anime, and it's just it's wild.
It's funny. We were talking to I guess it was Sleep Easy the other day in one of these formats, and he was telling us about some of the animes that really helped build him, and he introduced me to one anime. He was like, it's short, it's like a 5-episode run, but it's got all of these things that's just a primer for you and stuff. I've got it somewhere in my notes. I can't name it off the top of my head. But that is like the number one thing that people say to me. It's like, hey, can you break down anime? And I'm like, next milestone, I'll start doing something like that.
At 20K, let's do it.
20K. Oh,
you need to find some more free time.
I got that. Well, okay, so shifting over to Final Fantasy VII, and this is actually a really great moment to do it, because I ask you about your channel, I ask you about your subs and all that kind of stuff, and I want everybody to notice this. When you talk about your channel, you always use the word we. We've built this. This is kind of what our channel has done, and you use this first person plural set of pronouns that's absolutely amazing, which lets us know that you haven't done this by yourself. You have help. You have supporters. You have people like Nadia, and I'm assuming you've got people even in your community that are believing in you and all this kind of stuff. And I think that is such it's such a grounded way of talking about your channel, first of all, but it's also one of the core themes in Final Fantasy VII, that we are stronger together. Our memories rely on interactions with one another and all that kind of stuff. And so as we shift over into Rebirth, first of all, I just wanted to say that's awesome. Don't lose that. It's so cool.
All right, everybody. It's that time of the episode where we get a little bit of a stretch break and we get to know each other. That's our minigame stretch break. So let's get a little stretch in, everybody. We've got Blitz joining us here for this stretch break. So everybody stretch your stretch your mind, maybe. Just wherever you find yourself, just take a little bit of a break. You've probably been staring at the screen too long. Yeah, I've been sitting too long. Just, hang in there, stretch. And like every episode, we kick off our minigame stretch break with that theme music. 3, 2, 1. Bum, 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 That was good. You're so melodic.
Fantastic.
So melodic. All right, everybody. We do have the bingo wheel of vulnerability, numbers 1 through 50. We'll get to that in a second. But first, what questions are we going to be pulling from today, Wade?
Today, we are going to be using the Hero's Journal side quest deck. It is from the same people that create the Hero's Journal. You can make sure that you find them on Amazon and on theheroesjournal.com.
So, Blitz, as our guest, you will get to pick the first number 1 through 50. No pressure. Sleep Easy was our first guest ever to guess correctly. First person ever to guess correctly in our last episode. So, no pressure. Which number do you want, 1 through 50?
I expect nothing less than that from the lore god. For me, it's going to have to be number 24, baby.
Number 24!
24, baby. Darrell Revis.
He's on Revis Island. All right. Wade, what do you want?
I'm going to go to 18.
All right, I'm going to take number 11 for my boy Julio.
Let's go.
All right, so Blitz, just tell me when, and I will stop and grab one.
Right now.
All right, it is red. It is in the hopper. I will not let it fall on the ground, which has not happened much. Here it is, and it is number, so close, 21.
21.
Very close. Very, very close.
Wow. Dang, Sleep Easy. I'm coming back. Just
I'm coming for you, Sleep Easy. You ain't gonna be sleeping easy anymore.
What number did he pick? Do you guys remember?
He picked 32.
32. We've memorialized it forever.
Yeah, I think we're gonna ship it to him and have him sign it or something.
That's great.
We have to.
It's never happened in the history of this game.
I lost my mind.
It was
That's
amazing.
nuts. 1 through 50? That's crazy. Did he play the lotto that day or do any scratch offs?
I don't know.
If this is where he wasted his luck, I feel really bad for him. He should have played the lotto.
Yeah, for real.
So
he wasted his lucky day on 2 guys.
Hey,
it's
let's go.
What's the question, Wade?
The question, like I said, comes from the Hero's Journal side quest deck. I've chosen the 21st card off the top, and this one is: when was the last time you visited a local museum or taken a virtual tour? I take that to also mean a tour in a video game or something like that. When was the last time that you were a part of a museum or something that you were looking around and just observing and taking it all in?
Recently, actually, with Subtext, we were in New York. We went to Edge, which is in NYC. It's a giant glass. It has a glass floor at the top, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But we went there and we were walking through this museum, and it was telling you about how Edge was built, and was showing you a cool VR depiction of New York being built in the 1600s, 1700s.
Very cool.
And as you go up the elevator,
amazing.
It was really cool. It felt very Shinra-esque.
Oh.
It felt like I was walking through Shinra Tower, and we filmed it. I'm gonna ask him if he can slide me that footage so we can insert it in here as B-roll if possible. Yeah. But it was a really cool experience.
Dude, that's amazing.
That we did that very recently. And then before that, in Orlando, they're opening up Epic Universe, which is a new park. And if you go there, you could actually, if you go to City Walk, you could actually take out your phone and use a VR thing to kind of and it simulates the park for you in a 3D form, which is really cool.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Also, shout out to Subtext. You took me to brunch in New York, so what's up? Um,
He's a great host, bro.
Yeah,
He's such a great
What's
host.
up, Subtext? Where's my brunch?
For real, no love for Evan. How dare you,
Subtext doesn't know that I exist.
That is true.
Well, he gonna know your name today.
Today. All right, Evan, what about you? Museum tour?
I love museums. The last museum I went to, and I have a prop, was the Pinball Museum in Asheville, North Carolina. Before
So many
wedding, some
props
friends and
all
I.
around you.
Yeah, life is. Listen, props make life worth living. So I have this pinball. So we got a pinball there. My friends and my brother and I just played pinball and got to read about the history and see the history of all the machines. So you'd hop on a machine to play and it would tell the story of where it was and the development, the company and everything like that. It's really, really cool. So if you ever go to Asheville, North Carolina, check out the Pinball Museum. But just a heads up, they only let a certain number of people in and there is a line around the door when they open typically. So you can't just drop in, drop out. Make sure you plan ahead to get there and hang out. And it was a blast. So if you like pinball, shout out and keep this on the desk because I like it.
Okay. That's awesome. That sounds really, really cool. Last museum I went to was an Indian burial ground just outside of Tuscaloosa called Moundville. I spent the Saturday there, and I was actually doing search for Cosmo Canyon-esque things and the Gi specifically, looking at Native American lore and mythology and stuff. And it's literally 15 minutes, 20 minutes off of campus. And so just a fun Saturday afternoon looking at things like that. It was awesome. So
there you go.
It's no virtual Shinra museum, but it was awesome nonetheless.
Bro, we all went to wildly
really
different museums.
Well, for you, listener, we hope that you had a nice little stretch break and that you're observant of the world around you, whether it's something curated like a museum or whether it's a museum of your own mind and experience as you travel throughout your day. We hope that you can be reflective and present as we have with our minigame stretch break. And with that, a big thanks to Blitz and a big thanks to you, viewer, as we jump back into the episode.
When it comes to Rebirth, one of the key things in that story were the bonds of affinity and relationship throughout the entire game, bonds of connection. You've already talked a little bit about how Nadi is like a Tifa to you. What did the affinity system, the relationships, the bonds in that do for you that maybe in Remake that just wasn't as big a deal for you? How did that and the relational dynamic impact you?
The biggest thing, what makes me gravitate and love FF7 so much, is obviously the cast and the characters. And that's a big thing within Final Fantasy, is if you got a strong cast, if you have a great relation, if they showcase a real relationship between them, they can carry a story. They can carry so many emotions. They can help get you invested in this stuff. So like seeing that we have all these different multiple answers that we can give certain castmates, it made me feel like a child again, and like hanging out. I felt like I was hanging out with them. Like they were my real friends, and like getting to interact with them. And I never wanted to like be mean to any. I consistently was like, oh my god, if I said the wrong thing, I would like want to reload and like go back and say the right thing. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think it was one of the best things that they could have done, because it's such a strong core fundamental to what Final Fantasy is as a whole, and one of the strongest elements of FF7 in general is the cast. So them building a system out of that not only makes it feel great, it's nostalgia filled, it also impacts your combat abilities. It also impacts the gameplay. It changes dialogue up sometimes in certain areas, and it's just like such a really smart thing, I think, that they went ahead and did with this. And when they said it, like when they first showcased to us that was going to be a thing, and I'm like, oh my god, this already is better than Remake. How did they? Because I kept building up this perception in my head, going from Remake to Rebirth, that it's not going to be an open world. It's going to be controlled and like chapter to chapter basis. We'll probably switch towns and stuff. And just to set my expectations low, just because I did not want them to I did not want to be let down. And then they somehow blew it out of the water and then so. So it's just like, it's so refreshing to see like Hamaguchi and the team care as much as we do and know about that as well. And you feel that with the new elements that they've put into this game and just casually playing through it. It's such a joy that I think I could probably play FF7 Rebirth on stream for probably the next like 10 years and not get tired of it in that way. Because just like I love the interactions between all of them.
I was saying this just the other night. I was streaming the beginning part of chapter 4 in Junon, right? And somebody in the chat, I don't know if you remember, the beginning of Junon, you've got a sunset sort of thing. It's like the golden hour, perfect time for photography and all that kind of stuff. Somebody said, hey, you can go back to the grasslands here and you can see the grasslands at sunset. And I was like, no. So I make my way back there, and it is just the most beautiful aesthetic in the grasslands. And so I took like 30 pictures, but I was like, this is the kind of thing where on stream I could play this for the rest of my life.
I've never done that. I've never gone back to the grasslands in the sunset.
Go back, because it is so cool. It's just I went to Calm, I went up to the clock tower, just kind of looking out over like toward Midgar, and it's like, how did they do this? How did they do this? And it's not for everybody, right? Like I would say 90% of players aren't going to go back to the grasslands, but that's a testament to this kind of open world, go do as you would like sort of mentality of this game. So really, really amazing stuff. You mentioned, just for the clarity for our audience, you mentioned that the affinity system impacts gameplay. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so if you actually use more synergy skills and abilities with a particular character, it tells you that your relationship with that character in the middle of combat has improved, and you unlocked more abilities. And it's like the coolest thing. I'm just like, what? Like the relationship improved, and that also was because the funniest thing, right? So I was trying to get the Tifa date for my first playthrough. Yeah. And I can't get Tifa, like everybody's kind of like on the same level, and I'm like, I can't get Tifa like higher. What can I do? So like I'm going through and I'm checking out all the different like ways to raise it, and somebody's like, wait, you don't have this one synergy skill with her or ability. And I'm like, wait, I don't? What? So I went back and I did it a bunch of times in combat, and eventually it said your relationship with her improved, and it shot me over that little percentage that I needed to get her ahead of everybody to get that date. And it was just like, I have a clip of it on from stream. I gotta bring that up. That is so funny.
That's awesome.
But it's like stuff like that. It's like, what? That actually makes a big effect. Takes into account where your relationship status is with them, improves it, can level it up. You get XP for it in the background in the middle of combat. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, that explains a lot, because I was actually trying to play the way that I used to play on the original Final Fantasy VII back in the old PS1 day, and I was trying to get my canon Aerith date. Okay, that I'm not shipping anybody. That's just what I always did in my life when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like Aerith, that's it. And so I'm on stream. I'm expecting Aerith to come to the door, and it was Tifa, and I was like, "What in the world?" Later on, and I loved the date, by the way. It was great, but I was like, "How did that happen?" And I realized I really hadn't used Aerith in battle very much because I wasn't very good at her.
Crazy,
Tifa,
right?
Really, because of your videos, I was like, Tifa's always in my party, and that put her over the edge. So that was.
He called me. He was so upset.
I was not so upset. I love him. Do not start some kind of war.
I wanted Aaron to be at the door. And then I said, wait, it's okay, man. It's okay. It was Tifa.
Hey, I did not say that. But to this day, literally right now, I still have only seen the Tifa date. I haven't seen the group date, the Barrett, the Yuffie, the Aerith stuff. I'm saving that for stream. So
hey,
that's awesome. And I've not seen the Barrett one, and I've not seen the Yuffie one. So I think like my next playthrough, which will most likely be on the PS5 Pro, just because
oh yeah, for real.
Digital Foundry got me, bro. Did you see that?
They did, and did you see today? I know we're publishing this later on, but today they announced the 30th anniversary edition PS Pro.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that thing looks beautiful. I know there's only 13,000 of them in the world, but
I hate that they did that, because
they always do.
I was obsessed with like card collecting for a while, so I have a lot of like football and basketball cards and like numbered ones that are like, oh, there's only 60 of these or whatever. So seeing that you can get a one of 12,300 PlayStation 5s, it makes me want it even more of those.
But well, so continuing kind of with Rebirth, you finished Rebirth. What was your immediate thought? did you love the game? Did you have questions? Were you like, I don't know what happened? It was fun. What were your initial impressions?
My initial impressions were I genuinely did not believe what I was seeing. I was like, no, there's got to be some other element here that we're not seeing, that I'm missing here. And at that time, my playthrough was actually a lot later, unfortunately, because I ran into a weird graphic bug. So I didn't end up finishing the game until like April. So I was like way after like Max. I was way after Baby Seal and them. And so like I'm going through this, and I'm just like, I already heard a bunch of negatives that people were having with the ending, and it kind of like set. I wouldn't say it set an expectation. I kind of did have a guard up because I was just like, okay, what's gonna happen? Is it gonna be just as bad? And I was like, bro, I loved it. I thought that was such a very interesting angle for them to take it. And then even like recent articles and stuff, the devs are like further confirming that, saying that, yeah, that's exactly what we intended. You never know. I just feel like I really enjoyed it. And it did kind of made me feel in a way empty inside. Not in a negative way, but like a very impactful way. Cause my heart broke seeing Cloud like that. It's like, everybody, obviously, when you play the game, you resonate as Cloud. Cloud is like you're playing as him, and you pick up on his emotions and stuff. So seeing Cody do such a fantastic job taking him through like 10 different emotions from chapter 13 all the way to the end, it blew my mind even more because I was expecting to see a sad Cloud of, foaming at the mouth, and we got that. We did get some parts of that, but then also we got a psychotic Cloud at the end, like there's so much to it that I love. And every time I go back to it, you always find new things, and there's always something you could take away from a fresh new watch of it. Like your first initial playthrough, you're not going to pick up on things. Like I didn't pick up on the Tifa looking at Cloud's hands and like seeing blood on them, and going back a couple times after, like you're taking your time and you're going back and you're seeing things unfold differently. And then it's like Tifa's being really quiet and like kind of distant to Cloud. It's like making you think, okay, does she think Cloud killed Aerith? Like this is blowing my mind even more because if you look at that perspective, she looks at the blood on the floor, and then she looks at Cloud's hand, and Cloud's hand has like a pool of blood in it. And then her face like breaks, and she's just so distant from everybody. It's so beautiful. I love the way that they did that, man.
That's a really interesting observation you make there, because I mean, in my recollection, I feel like I've watched the ending several times at this point. I think she only cries out Aerith, and then maybe has some battle like dialogue, but that's like all she says for the end of the game. I'm trying to recall if there's anything else, but it's always kind of this met with hesitance, suspicion, all the way till credits roll. And that's a really interesting thing. So you attribute some of that to seeing the blood on Cloud's hand, and then kind of really the look in his eyes and seeing Aerith there.
And also Cloud has attacked Tifa earlier in the game. Right. There's also the Midgar Stormer where like when Cloud goes underneath the water, obviously to us, we see Sephiroth go under there and save him. And then it's kind of like the finishing touch animation where it's Cloud's like limit break animation kind of mixed with like Aeroga, where like Midgar Stormer gets launched up and like gets impaled, and then Cloud asks Sephiroth, and like the party was just like, no, that wasn't Sephiroth. Maybe from their perspective, it could have been Cloud. Like Cloud, like
what an interesting. That's a super interesting question, right? Because I mean, the question that the party asks in the original game when they see Midgard Stormer or the Midgard Zolom at that point impaled is, did Sephiroth do this? And so from our perspective playing Rebirth, we're like, did Sephiroth do this? And the party is like, it's probably Cloud. Cloud did this. And I wonder if that's going to be a scene maybe in part 3 where we see these moments where we thought it was Sephiroth, but it was Cloud doing some things.
They could go even harder, because like, the crater moment when Sephiroth is like planting doubt in Cloud, and Cloud's doubting everything. He's like, nah, that didn't happen, bro. Tifa, you were there. And then Tifa is just like, in the OG, she's quiet and she's just like not answering anything. She's like, she's afraid to say anything because she can't corroborate and be like, yeah, I can't say for sure that is true. that shit's gonna hit even harder now
Yeah,
in
it
part
is.
3 with with that perspective that I just talked about going into part 3. So
So what do you think is gained by having this rift between Tifa and Cloud in this distrust? Because it's much more pronounced than it was in the original game. What's gained in the telling of the story?
I've always been on the side of where Sephiroth coming back and doing the exact same things never made sense to me. He
Hmm.
knows that killing Aerith is ultimately what foiled his plot because she was
Okay.
able to. Yeah, she cast it off wholly late, but she was, with her being dead, she was able to manipulate the live stream to help save the planet in the end of the
Hmm.
OG game. So it just never made sense to me. Why is Sephiroth doing the same exact things if the end result will ultimately eventually be the same thing? I think he's taking a different angle and trying to create a rift between Tifa and Cloud because he
Hmm.
realizes Tifa is the one that ultimately, in the live stream sequence, pieces
Yeah.
Cloud back together and gets his memories up and running, reinstills his confidence, and that's when Cloud just becomes his like strongest that Sephiroth can't manipulate or break down anymore. So I think
Hmm.
Tifa is ultimately a really huge piece that Sephiroth realizes is the biggest obstacle, essentially. Not necessarily Aerith. Aerith is obviously a huge obstacle,
Sure.
but I think he's going about it in a different angle that I didn't expect. I didn't expect at
Hmm.
all. Did not.
We talk about when you finish the game, you felt, I think this is my words, not yours, almost like hollow, like you'd had something
Yeah.
that you were walking with, and then it just felt a little empty because it was done. Like when you finish a good book or a long TV show and it's kind of finished. When it comes to the tension that they leave us with at the end of this game and the mystery that exists there, we've had some conversations with folks, and some really enjoy the mystery, and some are very resentful of the mystery. They really want to have the conclusion there. Where do you land on that, and how do you think that mystery kind of carries us through to this part 3 that we're all anticipating?
I think the mystery, and this is kind of a selfish answer, but I think if it wasn't for that mystery, channels like Schrodinger Baby Seal, Sleep Easy, the theories that Max had with Easy Allies, this entire community that we've seen come out of, you know, this game and the mystery behind it, and all of us coming together and trying to figure out what's going on. None of this would exist if it wasn't for that. So I personally love it. I love it, and I've gotten to make so many friends over the course of this thing, and it's also become a career point, which is beautiful, like phenomenal to be able to do that. And I love seeing like people that were in my comments in 2020 tell me that, hey, we started making videos too, and then I check out their content and they're doing extremely well. And it's obviously like we are like inspired, but it's cool to see how many people are actually inspired on these things and wanting to do content and talk about these things just because not necessarily they want to like grow or like become viral off of it, just because of the sake that we love talking about this stuff. And it's just been such a really good time. But I personally like the mystery. I do. I love it. Being an OG fan from back in the day, it's I just feel like if they kept it exactly the same, it wouldn't be a whole lot to really talk about in between games, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Art,
We
go ahead.
go ahead, Evan.
Oh, I was just going to say that I mean that's usually the mark of really good art is that it creates and evokes emotions and experiences within us, and it's a pretty unique aspect to video games, and really did it again. They haven't really told this sprawling of a story with any other game with this dynamic of combat and engaging environments that kind of carries us all along for the ride in that way. So I think it's definitely kudos to them, but it is fun. It feels like going to an art gallery with everybody online. Like you walk around the museum and you talk about the things that you see, and we're all kind of observing it collectively together. So I certainly do love that illustration, and I do appreciate the experience as well. So sorry, Wade, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're great. We have talked to a lot of people, and certainly online, about the things that didn't sit well with them. But you are talking about, hey, I'm loving that they're telling this new story, these new elements and these new aspects. What of the new things in Rebirth that the devs have added, new sequences and all this stuff, what hit the best for you?
What, like, in regards to new things specifically?
Yeah, of the new things that they've added, and it doesn't have to be dramatically new, but what new nuances even?
Oh man, there's so much, but the first thing that jumps out at me is chapter 9 with Gungaga, right? Chapter 9 is Gungaga, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That whole sequence, from the music, the mystery, I wasn't expecting to hear the weapon theme at all in this game.
Right?
So that completely, when Cloud wakes up out of that bed and I'm hearing the notes, I'm losing my mind, and it's not giving us the full music. It's giving us just the first couple notes, and then it just pulls itself back. And then as you get closer and closer to the reactor, you start getting hit with that track. And then hit Cloud going psychotic. There's just so many new things that they added to that specific moment. And there's a lot of things within the game as well, but that specific new element was so refreshing. It made me smile nonstop, but I was also scared because I was like, oh my God, are we going to lose Tifa here? Because that was the biggest theory that everybody was having. I'm like, this is happening now? I thought this was going to happen later. Like, the way that the trailers were cut, they did a great job with that. You know, I always give them shit about their trailers being too spoilery and stuff, but they got me with that one. I can honestly say I saw it, but I wasn't spoiled because I had no idea it was coming at that point. And I loved it, man. And Cloud just fully embracing the Sephiroth aura for like a good 30 seconds, slashing through everybody, the blood on his face,
that smirk when he kind of dodges his head a little bit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I love to hate him here. Like, it's so good.
Yes. I love that. And the new elements definitely have to be the side missions. I know there's a lot of people that are very negative about the side missions and the mini games and stuff.
Okay.
But
Side quest defender, let's go. Come on.
Yeah, I love the side quest.
I want to hear it. What was it about these that really compelled you to play more and to enjoy them? Talk to us about it.
I love these characters so much that I would rather see them interact with each other trying to catch a chicken and hearing that banter back and forth than progress with the story, because I know I'm gonna love the story, but it'll eventually come to an end. I want to see these characters do the most menial, mundane tasks together, just because their energy combined, it genuinely brings me joy. Like I feel all kinds of like serotonin when I see these characters. Like when you're picking the mushrooms with Aerith, and she's like, that mini game with the controller was weird. I kept messing that up, but like. That interaction was funny, and seeing elements getting explored more, like with Cisne and her being a bad cook and stuff. It's just like these things bring me joy, seeing these characters in different ways that I did not know that or expect that I would see. And it made me appreciate the devs a lot more for that. Yeah. And I know there's people that feel negatives about it, but hey, for me, most of it, all of it was a positive. Outside of Gears and Gambits, I feel like Gears and Gambits was They tried with that mini game.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like checked out of it. And it's
didn't
funny.
Hit for me either. Yeah.
It didn't. But the source around it was good though. Like knowing that Avalanche, that cell with Yuffie was still around and they're doing their thing. And also to hear about the Ever Crisis characters, Lucia and Matt. So it was just like, whoa, like that was surrounded by a pretty crappy minigame, but it was really, really lore filled. And I enjoyed that a lot about it, man. There's so much, man. There's so much. As I remember, I might chime in and bring some more.
As you could have picked 100 different side quests and mini games in this game, but you picked almost exclusively the ones from Gungaga, the chasing the chicken, the moving the mushroom, and Gears and Gambits. And those I would dare say are the most 3 hated in the entire game. And I love that you just went there. You're like, you know what? Like, we're going to Gungaga.
Hell yeah, bro. A place that I didn't think deserved or really was going to get as big of an explosion as it did, because in the OG game, my first playthrough, I didn't even go to Gungaga.
You don't even have to go there, really. Yeah.
I didn't go in there. I didn't see the Turks talking in the corner. I didn't get the Titan materia. You know, my first playthrough, I missed Deathblow over there. The only time I went there was before the end of Disc 1, where Cloud wakes up there after the Temple of the Ancients. And that's where it becomes unmissable. But then it's just like the first playthrough, I'm just like, what is this? This looks like a really polygonal tree, but it's
Yeah.
the reactor like looking like a mushroom cloud kind of exploding like that. It looks weird in like the OG game. So
It does. It really does.
yeah.
When it comes to your hopes for part 3, especially, whether that is kind of answering mysteries, the live stream sequence, what is it that your biggest hope would entail? Like, what do you really hope the devs lean into to really stick the landing?
A big moment for me, and the biggest like climax for me, and it is in the OG game, the live stream sequence between Tifa and Cloud and the realization and piecing him back together. That's such a really Got a little choked up there. Let me get some water.
It's absolutely. It's a meaningful moment.
That is the biggest water bottle I have ever seen.
That is the biggest water bottle.
24 ounces, baby. You drink this 3 times, you're good.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
No, man. The live stream sequence between Cloud and Tifa in the OG game is without a doubt my favorite moment of the game. There's so many good moments, but that one actually like empowered. I'm a big Tifa fan. It is what it is. I love Cloud too. Love Aerith as well. I love all these characters, but like seeing Tifa finally say something and do something that like she could have probably navigated a lot better, I will admit. And getting Cloud back to this confident standpoint, piecing him back together, was one of the most rewarding moments for me playing the game initially as a child, and like it stuck with me a lot. So there's a lot of people that are worried with, we're going to go back to Gongaga, a lot of people are worried that with what they showed in Chapter 9, where Tifa was inside the mini baby weapon and she got to go through the live stream sequence already, that it might not happen and that it might not be Tifa. The devs are very well aware at how huge of a moment that is. And I don't think that they would entirely skip over it or change major elements within it. I think that we saw Tifa navigating through this because now she has some experience with it. She's been through it. She knows what this is, and she'll probably be able to navigate it easier when we eventually get to that point with Cloud in part 3. And that's the biggest thing that I'm most excited for, how that will look, what that's going to be fully realized in modern day graphics, but also like to hear it voiced and the emotions between the characters, because Cloud, as we know it, Cloud's voice changes a lot in Rebirth. You hear it. You hear it in the flashbacks. You hear it when he talks. Even in the teaser trailer back during the 25th anniversary, when they revealed that the game was going to be called Rebirth, you hear Cloud's voice get a really soft tone, and it's like different from his like hard personality, you know? And it's like, I'm more than ever intrigued that when we get to that point when Cloud gets his proper memories restored and his confidence back, what will Cody do as far as talking in Cloud's real voice? It's not, obviously it's not going to be drastic like, you know, with Nanaki and stuff, but I think there's going to be a element within there that when I hear it, I'll probably cry on stream.
Save it for the stream. Exactly. You know, there's so many different things that they could do in this moment. And I'm glad that you mentioned that about Chapter 9 with how you think it's not going to take away from the impact of that final live stream sequence. Because I've heard that as well. That is a fear that's out there. There are so many loose ends to tie up in part 3. And then we've got these iconic sequences like, you know, the live stream. We've got the weapons. We've got you know, the escape from Junon and all of this kind of stuff at the beginning, Meteor. First of all, what mysteries do you think that they have to resolve for this to really, really kind of bring closure to the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy? And then I want to talk a little bit about the gameplay of part 3. Especially with you. I want to talk about gameplay of part 3. But what of the mysteries do you feel like this can't be ambiguous? They've got to give us an answer for this.
Well, the first one I'll tell you is one that they don't need to answer is Cloud's father. Don't ever answer that.
You mean Glenn?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, don't ever outright say it. Don't ever confirm it. Just leave it at that. Like don't ever.
There's a push on social media saying that I am Glenn, or the person that they have tried to model Glenn after. There's a few pictures on Twitter that went around where it was like me and then the side by side with Glenn, and I was like,
I see it.
Maybe they did. I don't know, but I'll never say. They should send me royalties for that. But anyway, but yeah, that's one that maybe shouldn't be answered.
Yeah, but there's so with Ever Crisis, right? Ever Crisis shows us how Sephiroth first, I guess, his first trip to the edge of creation and what that actually means for him as a character, and him bringing Cloud there in a remake, and then it being a recurring thing. That mystery obviously has to be wrapped up. I hope they don't wrap it up before part 3. It feels like they might just tease us with it in Ever Crisis some more, and then we'll get the full impact of it within part 3 whenever that does drop. But there are a lot of loose ends, man. There's the Gina talk thing, right? That situation with the Black Materia and Genova. Part of me feels like the ancients might not have been good people.
Yeah.
The way that things
set that up,
yeah, the way that things transpired between that, and maybe that could also get some more revelations between it. I was disappointed with Bugenhagen. I was kind of hoping things would be a little bit
clearer. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe what they did with Gina Talk was something that Bugenhagen would have did. But hey, I mean, I'm still okay with the way it unfolded. I just feel like Bugenhagen will get a redemption arc though, because that's just the way that portion of the game unfolds as well. Oh man, we definitely got to fight Sapphire Weapon.
Right. So moving into some of those things, what do you think the weapon fights are going to be like? What do you hope for with the gameplay, especially with these larger than life kind of entities?
More mini games.
I feel like they might break them up into subsections, and I don't want them to be subsections. I want it to be, because I know that they're large, they're massive. These things are going to be huge. So like, they have to obviously do the scale properly, because it can be weird if we're just fighting its leg in one part, and then like the party switches around and jumps to different locations. Like Sid and them are up top fighting the head or whatever. It's like, I hope they don't do that. I know that High Wind is definitely going to come into play with some elements involving the weapon. It has to. I mean, we fight Ultimate Weapon in that way in the OG game. But I'm kind of hoping it's like a traditional straight up boss fight. Like they're there and we're fighting them, and we can do crazy, like, dang, I just realized they might not make Tifa suplex the diamond weapon. we might not get that.
Oh, we sure hope they do though.
We'll find a way. Maybe a Mecha Godzilla type apparatus.
Maybe.
Yeah, bro. She gets like bipedal legs that just like pop out of nowhere.
Mecha Tifa first. You heard it.
Yeah.
Mecha Tifa. That'd be a new. You heard it here first. That's true.
Nobody's talking about it because it's dumb.
We gonna make it happen. Man, this when you talk about it in that sense, when you ask that question, there is a lot for them to have to wrap up, and they've made claims where they've said, "Don't worry, everything that they've ever introduced and talked about will be addressed and finished within part 3." And we still got a lot of like Avalanche and Wu-Tai to see. The whole thing with Yuffie's father currently in jail, right? He's in custody, I believe. The more I think about it, it's just like, okay, is this possible? Or are you gonna end up like?
How big is this game gonna be? Is the question, right? Will it be the size of Rebirth? Will it eclipse Rebirth?
Yeah, I think it has to be. It probably has to be bigger than Rebirth. But then, are we talking about a 400 gig game right here, bro? Like,
right.
God of War Ragnarok just released on PC today. It's 190 gigs.
Okay. That's a big boy. Yeah.
So
the new Call of Duty is 500 gigs, and it still has to stream in assets. Like, what are we doing?
And maybe that's the future, right? It's like you have the base download and you're streaming the rest. Hate it if you're in rural Alabama. Sorry, but
man, I think when it comes to part 3, it's overwhelming to think just how much they have to cover and have to hit, and it's just like, because I mean, if you go from it, right? Because like I was under the impression that maybe it's not going to end at the Temple of the Ancients Rebirth wise. That Rebirth would just continue to go to the Northern Crater, and then we get a cliffhanger there.
That's what I was thinking.
But now we're going to get the travel portions to the Northern Crater and dealing with the snowy elements, the snowboarding elements, Aerith's backstory. Do they remove that from? Do they move it to a later portion, like the VHS tapes and stuff that are in the northern continent? the interaction in the northern crater, like losing Cloud, and then oh my god, there's just so much alone right there. How is that going to be 2
And
chapters?
not to mention the entire Rocket Town sequence because they pushed that off to part 3,
Yes.
right? All of Sid's arc entirely. While they introduced him, they really didn't flesh it out, and so they've got so much to do. It's almost like, yikes, can they do it?
Hmm.
Do you think they can do it? Can they stick the landing for this? Because there's a lot of people out there that are like, no, there's no way that this can be the definitive, perfect, nail the ending sort of thing that we hope it will be. Do you have faith in this dev team for this?
I didn't have much faith after Remake going into Rebirth because my expectations were like, I don't know if, like, you know, because what we got were a lot of hallways and it was very limited as far as like traveling within Midgar and stuff goes. However, with Rebirth, completely blew my mind in that sense, to the point where I have the utmost faith in Hamaguchi and the team. And I think that just like how I was kind of like standoffish before and like doubting it, I think they very well will surprise me again and a lot of people with what they got planned for part 3. Because they've been planning out the main scenario and the story moments and stuff since developing Rebirth. So they have an early game plan essentially as they jump into diving the other parts. And I feel like the world map development doesn't really have to change up too much. You just have to obviously input air travel and the Rocket Town elements within there and Wutai, and I think they could do it. I really truly think they can do it. Oh my god, in space.
Yeah, right. They're going to space. Like, and that's it. I mean, you're going underwater with the submarine. You've got the traversal of the entire world at this point. Now you've got the air with the high wind, and then we've got space. And it's like, how big can this game be? Not to mention being able to go back to all of the towns that you've been to before to see how are they faring with the meteor in the sky. I mean, it's like, this will be, I think, the biggest game that's ever been made.
It has to be up there with GTA 6, bro. At this point, it's gonna be.
Let's go.
When spanning even continents, right? Because that's one thing that, and we don't know all the places that GTA 6 will be, but like I've never seen a game do this in a full like no loading screen, really, at least obvious loading screen. Move across the world. So I'm just thrilled beyond belief. Okay, last question, and then we're going to close out. You're the gameplay guy, okay? Like, I go to you for all of the battle systems and all that kind of stuff. I have 2 questions. Number 1, have you considered making a guide for those little pieces of grass/weeds in the side quest in the grasslands? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's the army of little grass weed guys.
Yeah, I'll deal with them easy, bro. Aerith, Genji gloves.
Okay.
Hair MP absorb to Firaga, and magnify to Firaga with Aerith, and just make them regret ever putting them in the game.
Just wail on them. Okay.
She will detonate and explode them beyond belief. The build that I have up recently for like the hard mode stuff, that it's probably the most broken build in the game. It works. You can't go wrong with it. All you got to do is swap out the elements, right? It works with every single element.
I've died to them 20 times in a row. I'll send you the one that I finally won on because it was by the skin of my teeth. And it was only Red 13, right? He's just like, I put like an ATB stagger material on him, and I put a fire and magnify, and he got the stagger once, and then it just like replenished the entire time. And I was like, I don't know how I beat it, but everybody's dead. He was almost dead. So anyway, I was like, what is
Red the MVP?
I'm constantly asking myself anytime I'm in battle, what would BltzZ do? It's like those WWJD bracelets. It's like, what would BltzZ do?
You see me in the background being transparent, sir. Arcane Ward! Arcane Ward!
Arcane Ward! I just need that in my... Okay. Real last question now. From the gameplay standpoint, what is the one top thing that you hope for gameplay-wise, battle-wise, in Part 3?
Besides Mecha Tifa.
Right, besides that.
That's my new favorite one right there. The ultimate want is something that I thought they were going to do in this game when we saw the Summer Games Fest trailer, and then they didn't do it, and it kind of bummed me out. But being able to swap background party members into the fight, middle of the fight, like Final Fantasy X style, I think that would be great, and they could introduce an assist thing. It could cost an ATB, sure. Like it can't be free because that's cheap. Cost an ATB. Call in Sid. Sid comes in with a Dragoon jump, lands on top of the enemy, and you see like Tifa tag out and like somebody.
Dude, very Tekken tag. I would love that. That would be
Yes.
so cool.
Little
That'd be
Marvel versus
phenomenal.
Capcom.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Make it cinematic, make it hype, make it over the top, and I don't doubt that they wouldn't make it look cool because of the synergy abilities and the skills. They all look really fantastic. But that is one thing that I really want, and I know for sure triple techs are going to be in the game. There's no way. They were such a big hit. Synergy, like the abilities being like a double thing. There's definitely going to be triples. There's no way they don't do it. So I have confidence that that's going to be a thing in the game. But I want more than anything else for that to be in the game. And also, I'm gonna sneak one more in: custom builds, because it can be
like
very the loadouts, man. It's like do it like a Call of Duty menu, man.
Please.
Like just
Quality of life. Yeah.
That would be a great, so that materia management is just easier. You've got your build, you can immediately equip and unequip and all that stuff. That would be great.
Yeah, because like I like what they did. They made sub tabs for you to. Okay, you want the purple materials? This is all purple material. Jump over here.
Yeah,
well, you can cycle through that or whatever. Even myself, like I study the materia system endlessly, trying to think of all these crazy dumb combos you can do. And it takes me a while on stream to really just get everybody situated. And sometimes for a fight that'll probably last a second with how broken some of these characters are, it'll take me like a good 5 minutes to put some materia together and swap them in and out. And it's just because even in the OG game, if you go to the exchange menu, you could actually move an entire bar of materia onto another character. So it's like it had it there. That's a decent compromise. I feel like that should be a thing that this game has.
Absolutely. Evan, do you have any other questions closing us out?
Where can people find you? What do you have coming up that you'd love to share?
You could find me over on YouTube at Blitz, BltzZ, and you can find me on Twitch as well. I've also started uploading a lot on TikTok, and some of the TikToks have been doing extremely well. Mostly like Metal Gear Solid stuff, but I upload everything, like highlights from the streams and whatnot. But upcoming things, I'm excited for Metal Gear Solid Delta Remake. I'm a big MGS fan. I always say Final Fantasy VII,
right?
So Delta might be. There's rumors. I was hoping it would be November this year because that's the anniversary of when MGS3 first came out.
Yeah.
But it seems like it might be a mid or early next year type thing. They haven't officially confirmed it yet, but I think early 2025. But MGS3, Metal Gear Solid is my favorite series of all time, and then Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time. So I always like those two mean so much to me, and I'm living in a timeline now where I can make content on them in a modern like sphere, and it's like the ultimate blessing, and I'm really grateful for it. So I hope you guys look forward to that content. There is something I do want to also. You kind of reminded me of something. The underwater areas of Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, let's do it.
Have you played Tears of the Kingdom, the Zelda game?
I sure have.
Bro, what if they do like the depths?
Dude, that would be amazing. So the other night I'm playing on stream in Junon, and this is something that somebody in the chat kind of mentioned, like, what if we get almost like this whole underwater realm that we can go into, and you listen to somebody in lower Junon, and there's this old man that's teaching kids about the old legends. And he said, there's an underwater city down there where we that was what Junon used to be, but after Shinra came in, it sank down to the bottom, and it's still there to this day, along with its many hidden treasures. And the kids are like, treasure? He's like, yeah, things that we may never know. And I was like, this is part 3 right here. So like I think you're onto something, and if we get something Tears of the Kingdom-esque, I mean that blows my hype out of the water.
Oh, absolutely, bro. What? That I did not catch that conversation. That's amazing.
You can miss it.
Yeah.
You walk through Junon, you hear this, and it's like, they're doing it. They're doing it because they talk about the underwater reactor, and then they talk about this ancient, forgotten city with all of its many treasures. And I'm like,
there it is.
That's fucking beautiful, bro.
Right?
That's insane. Because like the depths, the way they did that was when I was playing through Tears of the Kingdom, you got the sky, and then like the regular Hyrule area, and then when the game kind of like took me down there, I was just like, oh, how far does this go? And it keeps going, and going and going. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And then I had a conversation with Baby Seal a couple months ago talking about like the underwater area and stuff. And I'm just like thinking to myself, yo, they could do that. They could. There's a lot of things that we do underwater in the OG game that you could very well, like, they're definitely going to do, like the Gelnica, the underwater reactor, the emerald weapon fight, finding the lost key, the submarine battles. Like, there's so many things that we already have that I'm sure they're going to expand on even more, that it has to be such an even bigger thing. And probably what they're, most likely spending a lot of development time on developing is more so the underwater than the air travel, I think.
I just think that there's so many things, like we can't even fathom what they have in store for this, but they've given us these little teasers like that conversation. Or somebody mentioned to me the posters that you see throughout the world that look like the weapons, right? The island that's the emerald weapon, and the red rocks that look like ruby weapon. And somebody suggested, I think again on stream, just the brilliance of the people in the community in the chat coming up with these ideas. What if it turns into like that's an entire like quote dungeon that you're going through, and it ends up being this giant weapon? That might be a really interesting take on it before the battle that you have with the weapon. So I don't know, some really cool things.
They're onto something there. That's really cool. And like NPC dialogue, I feel like I need to take some time when next time playing the game and just going through and listening to them, because there's also an NPC in Costa del Sol. If you go back in chapter 13, he's to the right of Johnny's Seaside Inn. Okay. He's a dude in a suit, wearing black glasses and stuff. Kind of looks like Rude in a way. He says, "We're closed, but we'll be back open at a later point. If you want to try your hand against the king, we're closed for renovations. I don't think that you'll be able to survive our challenges." I'm like, what is this? What is this? I'll send you screenshots of it because it's please do. Cool. Like I was mind blown by this, and I'm like, is it DLC? Is it something in part 3? Like what can we expect of this? I was hoping like kind of like the selfish combat guy of my within me. I love how God of War Ragnarok had the Valhalla right DLC, and like it was a roguelite mode, and I feel like that would be amazing in FF7 Rebirth because of how many different team comps you could take in, and the different materials and the different accessories you can get. And it'd be really cool if they took advantage of that. And some people might say like, oh, every game has a roguelite, whatever. And I'm like, yo, if any game needs it, is this game. This game right here, because you can fully customize your team and take whoever you want in there. And I think that maybe that could be something that would be really dope.
That would be really, really cool. So one thing that kind of gets me thinking about, I guess two things. First of all, if it's teasing out some sort of side content, either for DLC or part 3, the first thing that I think about is more Queen's Blood. But what if there's a King's Blood, right? It's like a secondary sort of thing, right? That'd be interesting. The second thing I think about, and maybe this is just like me, I mean, this entire channel is overthinking, so I guess that's on brand for me. But like, Knights of the Round, right? If the lore of Knights of the Round is King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, then maybe there's something to do with that, which could be a really interesting piece too. I would love a roguelike where you are going through and unlocking each of the Knights of the Round before you take on like an Arthurian figure. Oh, that'd be cool.
That's such a huge thing. It can't be side anymore. That can't be a side element.
No, it can't be
embedded into the game. Yeah. What were you going to say, Evan?
Yeah, Evan, what's up?
You guys are just don't overhype yourself.
I know. We got to temper ourselves.
That's my favorite and least favorite thing about what video game fans do when they see a trailer is that you have this entire forum discussion. We're like, wouldn't it be cool if it's this, and this? And then there's that's not more than any reality of the execution. And then there's basically 1,000 branching trees of what this game is going to be. And everybody's completely made it the perfect game for them. And it's impossible to fulfill those expectations. And then the game gets completely crushed under its own weight. I get that. But also when we talk about like implementing new features and like what ifs and that kind of stuff, it would be cool. But I'm always so cautious to not let the weight of the hype train. And maybe we need the warrior of hype. We need Final Fantasy TV to like
Final Fantasy TV, the warrior of hype.
Yeah, that's just it.
There's when I was in high school, there was a movie that came out. You may remember it. It was called Van Helsing, starred Hugh Jackman. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Okay, listen. I don't know what you thought of the movie. I saw the trailers for it, and I was convinced that this movie was going to be the best movie of all time. Okay, like the best movie. I was so hyped. I was like, it looks so cool. I dragged my friends to it, and they were like, why do you want to see this awful movie? I was like, no, it's going to be awesome. So we watch it. I left the theater, and they were like, well, what'd you think, Wade? I was like, it was fine. It just was. It didn't live up to it at all. And they were like, really? I thought it was a pretty good movie. And ever since then, I've kind of called it the Van Helsing effect.
Oh, that's good.
Okay?
Oh,
right?
That's good.
It's the Van Helsing effect. Like, am I overhyping it and then underwhelmed, or am I underhyping it and overwhelmed when you experience it?
He also took a first date to go see Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
And last
It was his first and last date. He had no idea. He's like, hey, let's go see this movie. And then
she's like, well, what is it? It's like, yeah, so I guess we're done.
We never started.
That's amazing. That's so amazing.
Yeah, it was very romantic. So it was our Final Fantasy. That's
really. There it is. Well, Blitz, thank you so much for
truly
everything and for coming on. And we love your content. You get us through those difficult moments. So please don't give up on us.
Yes, please don't.
Never.
I can't wait to use
a memory.
Hey, thank you. Using your guides for the outer what is it? The Outer Realms?
Outer Worlds. Yeah.
That's it. Okay, I need that. So.
My wife thanks you because it's a lot less controller dropping frustration on my end.
I am very honored. I'm so happy to help you guys out, and just like the continued like comments of it, and it sucks because as you continue to grow, you get way too busy, and it's hard to like, especially if you edit it all yourself. It gets very hard to like stay consistent with things. So I got constant comments of people like, hey, where are the Bonds of Friendship guide? You just uploaded this one like a month ago. Why are you taking? And I'm like, yo, guy, come on. There's so many things. And then he causes a chain reaction where like other people are replying to him, and I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it. Just,
it's coming.
It's gonna take some time, but I got you. It's gonna be great because I'm gonna try to do it differently than what other people are doing, and that's one thing that I like about this element is like, yeah, you could be the first person to come up with the guide and do these things, sure, but like I'm all about refinement, taking something and just finding a more easier way to accomplish and get the same results, if not easier, right? I think that's the best thing because like I do want to make my viewers and anybody that watches into a combat god. Not everybody's gonna be the next Son of Legend, but you could very well finish fights 10 minutes faster than the best people are right now in so many ways. And it's like that the same thing goes into like fighting games. There's some combos that you can do that have more hits, but they're obviously going to do way less damage because of damage scaling. So there's always the optimal route, and that's where I try to strive and aim for us with my content, whether it's guides or informational. I try to be optimal for the viewers and anyone within that like. So it's an honor, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it, and we appreciate all the hard work you put into your videos, your guides. I know that the entire community does. So thank you. And thank you for being on today. This has been a blast.
It's been so fun. Like I don't want it to end. I kind of want to come back again if you guys have time later this month.
We would love that. We would love that. Maybe on a day when the Jets aren't playing, right?
Good luck to your Jets. Good luck.
Yes,
Thank you guys.
Luck to the Jets. And also, we didn't really do this at the start of the show, but we did kind of turn this into Jersey Day. You've got the Jets. Evan, who are you sporting?
My Falcons.
The Falcons.
There's no such thing as a convenient or bandwagon Falcons fan. There's only those of us who've been hardened in the crucible of failure.
Yeah. Similar to the Jets in a lot of ways. So as a guy from Alabama, listen, I don't have pro football, but I do have the one and the only, and for this, I do have to stand up, and I'm just going to turn around. The one and only, the greatest of all time.
Roll Tide.
Oh, is that that guy? Is that
Mr. Nick Saban himself?
That's the guy from the Geico commercials.
That's the guy from the Geico commercial. That's
sorry,
right.
The Aflac commercials. Yeah,
the Aflac, the Geico, he's in it all.
He loves ducks.
And I think he's on like some Airbnb one now. And like he's everywhere.
I saw him sitting next to Pat McAfee. Is he a big deal?
He and Pat McAfee are like best friends now, and I think that on College Game Day, when Pat McAfee takes his shirt off, I'm waiting for Saban to do the same thing. So that'll get the ratings. Let me tell you.
Just like I'm sure a lot of college teams are glad Saban's not there anymore. I'm very glad Belichick is no longer there anymore in New England. So tonight's going to be a good one.
Let's go.
I hope. Oh God, I hope.
Well, it'll be great. Thanks for the time.
Yeah,
of course, guys.
Well, yeah, we're going to have you back on. Everybody, make sure you check out all of BltzZ's stuff. You can find him on YouTube and apparently on TikTok because that is booming for him as well. So go check out BltzZ, especially if you're having a hard time with the rebirth. Make sure you stay tuned for our future lecture plays as well as more interviews as part of our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth lecture series. And with that, walk tall, my friends, and we'll see you in class.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
Thank you so much to Blitz for the awesome interview. We had such a good time. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Thanks to Husky by the Geek for our theme music. Thanks to Nick Smith who does our graphics. And most of all, this program is brought to you by viewers like you. So thanks to you. Give yourself a pat on the back. Hope you're having a great week. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Bye-bye and take care of yourself.